Hey guys, what is up? This is Matthew Davis, me once again. Welcome back to the movie review, aka After I Saw. This time is going to be on Michael. This is the biopic of Michael Jackson, directed by Antoine Fuqua, and it focuses on, of course, Michael Jackson, as we see him grow from a young boy all the way up to the beloved pop star of the 80s and 70s and stuff like that, as we somewhat take a look into, his past life, how he didn't really have the best relationship with his father and whatnot, but this is more on the lines of focusing on, just him and, performing for the world, how he wants to perform for the world and show how gifted he is when it comes to, dance and his music. So yeah, it's pretty straightforward on what exactly that you're into. And if you're a fan of Michael Jackson, then you know exactly what to expect. I've always enjoyed his music. I definitely think he is an icon when it comes to, what he brought for the world. And look, I'm not here to talk about the controversies and whatnot, because I'm here to talk about, this movie. And if I do see something involving, then it will be deleted. Like the comments on, but he did this, because they will be deleted. I'm sorry, because I'm not here to discuss that, because this movie doesn't really take a deep dive into those controversies or any of the more darker elements. The closest thing there is, well, I don't really want to spoil, but yeah. Now, I feel like this movie and the Super Mario Galaxy movie have one thing in common. Critics are tearing it apart, but audiences are glazing all over it, and I'm not surprised. But, I can't really say I can't see where the critics are coming from. Because, well, look, there are definitely problems in this movie for sure. I thought it was fine. I enjoyed myself just fine. I don't think this is like a 3 out of 10 IGN rating or whatever. I definitely don't think Mouse PI for Hire is a 6 out of 10. Review for that coming soon. But I could definitely say there is a lot from this movie that I kind of wanted more of, but they did bring up the fact that, they do want to make a sequel tying into more of the darker elements of Michael Jackson's past and whatnot, but I feel like there is still a lot to praise about this movie. Specifically, Jafar Jackson. Like, holy crap, this man. Of course, Jafar Jackson is the nephew of Michael Jackson. So the fact that they got in a relative of the Jackson family to perform as Michael Jackson himself, I thought that was a smart idea. That was a very smart move. And I believe this is his debut. He freaking nailed it. I did not see a guy performing as Michael Jackson. I actually saw someone being Michael Jackson. The choreography he gets right, the voice he gets right, the look he gets right. So they definitely nailed it when it came to the casting, and I thought it was a very smart choice. It shows that this man knew what his uncle was like. And it goes to show that, a lot of, hard work can definitely pay off for, trying to get everything right. From your uncle's performance and whatnot, for what he did in the past in terms of his music and whatnot when he's on stage. It's, yeah, I could go on all day of how good he is in this movie. And the guy who played Joe Jackson, he definitely made me dislike him, because throughout this movie, he tries to show, he has sympathy for his son until he only cares about his son because, he makes the money and whatnot. And of course, that really made me, not like him. So they definitely did a good job with, portraying Joe Jackson as a very unlikable guy. Of course, there were more stuff like that during, his past events, Michael's past events. But, for a biopic, it's not really going to cover everything, because that's really one of my main gripes with the movie. I didn't care that they didn't cover everything, but they did not cover a whole lot. They only covered what he was like, the fact that he was he was raising zoo animals like a chimpanzee and a giraffe and a camel. He mentions that he wants a pet camel. But really, though, the problems lie into, how quickly this movie goes by without having us, look into more of the dive into, how Michael was motivated into, writing these songs. It's just all song, then we move on to the next part. Like even when it comes to like the thriller scene, because of course that would be in the movie. It's really well done, but there isn't really like a part to these to when it came to performing these songs, why exactly he wanted to perform these songs. Because when you write a song for something, it definitely feels like, there is a purpose for these songs, and it just moves by really quick, which is another problem that the Mario Galaxy movie had. But I really shouldn't be comparing the two too much, but I just feel like, this is a movie specifically aimed towards, tributing Michael Jackson rather than, focusing on his life story. And they did state the fact that they do want to make a sequel tying into more of the darker elements of Michael Jackson's past. And that's cool and all. I definitely do want to see a sequel to this, but I feel like it's one of those things where I don't want a two-parter. I want the full thing. Well, sure, both Wicked movies are out, both Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning movies are out, and we're still waiting on the conclusion to the Spider-Verse trilogy. Because sure, when the sequel comes out, it's not really going to matter anymore, but when you have a movie that's out right now, and you just expect people to, make the most of, what you're trying to put on screen while we wait for the next one, I just feel like it's gotten to a point where it's just going too overboard. And it didn't ruin the movie for me, but really though, I feel like my biggest issue is how it concludes. Now, it's not like a trash conclusion whatsoever, because they do a lot of justice when it comes to Michael Jackson's, because I don't want to get big into spoilers, because if I give away like too much on the last act, then, I just don't want to ruin it for you. But people have brought it up. The last act really feels like it doesn't really have like a real last act. It just feels like, because there is a big part later on in the movie, like towards the last act, where something happens to Jackson and we just assume that, something's just, but that often just gets like, nope, we're still going to continue on. So that's the closest thing I'm going to give you to the conclusion, because of course this movie does feel a lot more like a concert film when it gets to the later act of the movie, but I can't really say that's a bad thing, because again, it's stylish. They did a great job with replicating Michael's skills and whatnot and performing on stage. And critics did give the movie criticism for that, how it focuses a lot more on that rather than more of the bigger things of Michael's life. But yeah, I do like the fact that he started off with the Jackson 5, then wanted to start playing solo, but then there are times where they wanted him to perform with the Jackson 5 again. But yeah, those elements I definitely did like, and I do like the fact that it does still try to focus on what they could show, like in terms of Michael's story before performing on stage. But yeah, originally they wanted to do something different with the ending, but because they couldn't, people were when filming this movie, they were all like, "Oh, you can't show this for the ending. Like, you can't do this for the original." Like, I don't know the whole story behind that, but because of that, they had to reshoot the movie to end it in a different way. And they were just thinking to themselves, "How do we end this? How do we end this? How do we end this?" So, yeah, you can definitely tell that the ending really doesn't really feel much like an ending, more like a full-on like homage to Jackson. But hey, I know I'm giving this movie a lot of grief, but I didn't think it was bad. No pun intended. As someone who's always enjoyed his music, I wasn't bored by this movie a single bit, despite the fact that it's over 2 hours long. There wasn't a time where I thought the movie was dragging on way too much. In fact, after like the first 10 minutes, when we actually see Michael grow up into a man, then yeah, that's when the movie really picks up. And what can I say about the music? It's awesome. Like, I don't really need to say anything about the music, because I don't care if it's dubbed or Jafar was actually singing. It's always going to be amazing, regardless how you feel. So look, in the end, guys, while there is a lot of issues for this movie, I definitely feel like this is aimed towards the fans who grew up with Michael's music, and I feel like this is more along the lines of paying tribute rather than focusing more on his life story. Because if they do end up making that sequel, I feel like that's really what they're going to save it for, even though I feel like they should have just added a lot more to this film rather than it just being, hey, we're doing a two-parter. But at the same time, I can understand why, they had to do what they did. But nonetheless, if you're a fan of Michael Jackson, definitely check this movie out. Chances are you'll have a fun time. Chances are you won't care. about, the fact that they don't really tackle like the big things, but yeah, expect more on the lines of a tribute rather than a full-on biopic. And you should be golden, but yeah, I wanted a lot more than just a tribute. But hey, they did a great job with the tribute part. I just wish they added in a lot more. But hey, maybe the sequel will make up for that. But I shouldn't talk about the sequel because that's not even out yet. Emphasis on yet because it hasn't been fully confirmed yet. But chances are people are going to go out and see this movie. It'll probably do really well. So yeah, there's good, there's bad, but I just wish it was more on the lines of being bad in a good way. But I can just say it was fine enough. If you weren't a fan of Jackson, you're not going to enjoy this movie, but it really just depends. But however, for full-on Michael Jackson fans, I definitely recommend the documentary This Is It. This focuses on behind-the-scenes footage of Michael Jackson to pay tribute to him. I think this was after the man's death because this came out in 2009, but I definitely feel like, this is a must-watch if you're a fan of Jackson. Like, this is a really good one, and I definitely recommend it. So, yeah. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and maybe subscribe for more. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or maybe Blue Sky. Links are in the description, and I'll see you guys later. We're out.